On today's show, we're going to a place with a bit of a bad reputation, yet it's a great destination. Good times in the Badlands of South Dakota. And later, we all know nature has a way of inspiring, so we'll meet a bow hunter poet who is so inspired he writes his poetry in the dangest of places.
It's God, Mother Nature, and little old me.
Ever wonder what you'd do if you fell through the ice? Well, we'll get some tips from ice experts who've learned the hard way firsthand. And our Minnesota-bound classic this week heads north to Duluth to discover the one and only Duluth Pack. Find out why this backpacking company have been around since 1882. Those stories and more next.
Minnesota Bound. Brought to you by Minnesota's Select GMC dealers.
Hi everybody, Raven and I welcome you to the show. First up, a question. What do you think the world would look like if it was just about to come to an end? Well, the answer might be out in South Dakota, a place called the Badlands.
If there's a heaven on earth, then this must be hell. The Lakota Indians had a name, Bad.
Makosicha.
Bad land. French explorers said this was a terrible place to cross. La Mauvaise Terre, pardon my French. And now, centuries later, visitors to what is now South Dakota's Badlands National Park can't believe this is Mother Earth.
Some people call it a moonscape. Other people do describe the place as being bizarre.
Strange, yes, but to naturalist Mary Ann Mills, the Badlands is a fascinating chapter from the Book of Earth.
Where you're standing right now, you would be standing on the bottom of a marine environment, meaning an old sea. We are sort of a combination of being eroded away by the flowing of water, also wind swiping through the area, removing tiny fragments. We aren't a process of uplift at all, but we were probably never a totally flat plain either. We always had some sort of variety within our terrain.
That variety is reflected in the Badlands' colorful layers, which are in some respects like pages to its story.
We have 4 basic formations in the park. That very top part is called the Sharps Formation, and the Sharps Formation has a different makeup.
The heavy reddish layer, called the Brule, was walked on 30 million years ago by prehistoric pigs, rhinos, and 3-toed horses.
The story of the Badlands are 2 simple geologic processes, which is deposition, dropping stuff off, and erosion, carrying things away.
Visitors may not notice, but the Badlands are never the same.
It changes on a daily basis. Our erosion rate here is an average of 1 inch per year, which is a pretty fast, consistent erosion rate, with many places it being 1 foot per year. We always joke and tell people, though, come and visit the Badlands now, because we estimate in 2 to 3 million years it will be flat then.
Today, the wildlife residents in the Badlands include bison and mule deer. But a long time ago, many strange-looking beasts lived here, including something called the Titanothere.
It had 2 large sort of sweeping tusk things that came off its face. We can only theorize about the soft tissue. This may have been for protection. This may have been considered very attractive to another brontotherium. And this is the skull of an oreodont. Its name, oreodont, means mountain tooth because it has very jagged teeth. Oreodont was certainly the most common land mammal living in the Badlands, with there being herds of them roaming this area.
One good thing about Badland is it lasts a long time. Despite millions of years, the Badlands is still a harsh and unfriendly environment.
Some of the other aspects of this being called Badlands is our extreme differences in climate. In winter, we'll get 75-mile-per-hour winds for 5 days straight. We don't get much snow. In summer, we can reach 110 degrees.
During the gold rush days, a few hardy souls looked for gold in them thar weird hills, but didn't find much. just as you might expect. More flakes of snow than gold. Badlands, partner. Badlands.
A whistle among the majestic trees, a relaxing sound that surely will please.
To be or not to be. In a tree stand, that is. We'll go up there with a poet who has the best view nature has to offer.
Minnesota Bound, brought to you by Minnesota's select GMC dealers. Connecticut. Rapala Ice Force. LL Bean. And by Grand Rapids Tourism.
Welcome back. You know, they often say a white-tailed deer bounding is like poetry in motion. But sometimes there's poetry up in a tree stand. Bill Shirk has the story.
As sure as time itself, summer eventually withers away. Autumn walks in the woods provide profound moments alone. Greg Cleveguard knows.
Look at all the rubs. Look at that rub right there.
Call him a little sentimental, but Greg has a passion for the fall woods. In fact, this time of year, you'll find Greg wedged in the crook of his favorite old bur oak.
Even if there ain't no deer around now, it's just up here is pretty cool.
Greg sits 18 feet up in the tree 5 days a week.
It depends on how I'm feeling, but I like to try to get out there 6-7 hours a day. There's a lot the tree does for you. You know, it keeps you warm, it's shelter. I mean, a rainy day, I still sit out there. I love it.
Funny thing, but up here, Greg discovered something. If he listened hard enough, he could hear the woods speak. Those words would forever change him.
It's almost a religion. You know, the tree stand's my pew. You just sit out there and it's, no, I'm not alone in this great oak tree. It's God, Mother Nature, and little old me. A whistle among the majestic trees, a relaxing sound that surely will please. So come here, friend, come with me and sit upon my favorite tree.
This bow hunter found himself writing down all the stuff he heard out here. That led to a nickname.
I'm Greg Cleveguard and proud to be the tree stand poet.
Yep, the tree stand poet. A man in a tree with a book.
This is it. This is the treasure.
A book full of poems.
Numbers is, you know, it's in thousands. You know, some I'll never share.
Never share because, to Greg, poetry is expression, and his words have been his salvation.
I get emotional about what I do, but it's been a blessing.
You see, a few years back, Greg discovered he suffered from Parkinson's disease. Depression kept him out of the woods, until Greg remembered the experience of sitting in an autumn tree.
Bow hunting brought me back into life, found my spirit again. Used my writings as a healing thing for myself and others.
Now, the poetry's become full-time work.
Make sure it fits inside of the box.
Greg frames and sells his art, though he rarely works alone.
Had shows and stuff too, when it's an outdoor show. She'll sit there nicely, and she's a chocolate lab in disguise, because she was supposed to be my chocolate lab.
When he's not buried in the studio, Greg's where else but back up in his tree.
I know I'm not supposed to with my health. You know, I lose my balance at times. I'm big into strapping into a tree now.
He hopes his words might affect others. At the very least, the tree stand poet dreams his work might help people better understand the call of the wild. And maybe, just maybe, they'll hear the woods speak.
It's something that everybody has, you just have to find it and just use your imagination. It is hard to explain with words, but it's nature's reward.
Up next, some advice that all Minnesotans should heed. What do you do if you fall through the ice?
Closed captioning is brought to you by Starkey Hearing Technologies.
Today we are getting wild in the kitchen, celebrating the holidays, and I'm here with Chef Paul with Firelight Grill House and Cocktail Bar, and today we're cooking a Christmas goose. Is that right?
Nothing says Merry Christmas like the famous Christmas dish, goose. What we want to do is we want to get the best flavor out of the goose, we want to start off with a marinade. So what I do is I take peppercorns and cloves, allspice and thyme and bay leaf. Okay, now I'm going to add the brown sugar. Now when I add the brown sugar, that really helps the other spices stay close and they grind up. So we take that ground spice mixture and we dump it into a bowl, and then we're going to take a little Gras Meunier, and then I'm just going to slice my garlic, and then I'm just going to mix that up. Now, as you can see, it makes like a soft paste. Just
Okay.
take that and start to rub it around on the inside.
The spices smell wonderful. Time for a goose to rest for 3 days.
Our goose has been in the bag and it's been massaged over the past couple of days. We're getting ready to cook it.
Taking the temperature up to 400. All right, Chef Paul, so we've turned the goose over twice, and now it's time to add the veggies?
That is correct. What we have here is we have celery. You want to
All
dump
right,
that
we'll
in
put
there?
this in here.
Right in
Oh,
here.
and this one.
Onion,
Onion,
rutabaga,
going in.
beets,
Ooh, yellow beets.
turnips, and carrots.
Almost all root vegetables.
And then we're going to set that back up on top of those vegetables.
This guy's heavy. Ooh, there he goes.
And now it's time to get our Christmas goose. The vegetables are tender, the skin is crisp, and it's golden brown.
Coming up, some important safety advice for those of you who go out on the ice, whether you're on top or in it.
If you've ever walked on a frozen lake, this is every angler's greatest nightmare. But rather than a nightmare, you might say Sam Jaquith is living the dream. He knows how to survive because teaching ice safety and rescues is his business.
I've been an instructor now doing this for 30 years.
Plunge after plunge, the teacher willingly treads on thin ice to teach others how to survive or to rescue.
What happens when you fall through the ice? If you don't have any rescue equipment, any safety equipment with you, we're going to demonstrate how hard it is going to be to get out of that ice. And then we'll go on, demonstrate just a simple use of the rope throw bag.
Another demonstration about how not to die. One evening off the ice with Cottage Grove firemen,
Thank you for coming.
the lesson was about saving lives or yourself in ice rescue situations.
How many out here are fisher people? Okay, great. What's the thinnest ice that you go out on? Let's see what the DNR says. DNR says 2 inches of ice. Yeah, stay off.
Other precautions an ice angler may take, Jaquith says, includes wearing a PFD, the same safety device worn in the summer,
If you do go in, guess what? You pop up.
or a coat with flotation, also works well.
It'll float a 200 to a 250 pound person. It's just a shell coat.
But remember, if you fall in, you don't have much time to get help. Maybe 5 to 10 minutes of muscle control.
If you don't get out within that first 10 minutes, you're probably not going to get out.
Perhaps the most important safety tool is to carry ice picks, not only for crawling out of a hole in the ice, if you would fall in, but ice picks may come in handy for saving somebody else.
Ice picks, gotta have them.
Talking ice safety is one thing, practicing ice rescues is another, of course. Yet after 30 years of thin ice, Sam still seems willing to fall through it.
Every year, especially in Minnesota, land of 10,000 lakes, we lose so many people to cold water accidents. And we shouldn't be losing them with very simple safety precautions are taken. It'll save your life.
Our Minnesota Bound Classic this week features a company in Duluth who's still known for its handcrafted backpacks.
Minnesota Bound, brought to you by Radco Truck Accessories, Ellsworth Creamery, the Minnesota Horse and Hunt Club, and by Egg Star Financial Services.
Time now for our Minnesota Bound Classic. You know, if you go to the Boundary Waters, you always hear about a Duluth Pack. You probably use them. A Duluth Pack. Are they really made in Duluth?
Canoe trips to Minnesota's Boundary Waters always seem to require heavy loads. Canoes, paddles, fishing gear, plus all that camping stuff. It's so easy to overpack. But a French-Canadian explorer with a passion for the outdoors solved that problem a long time ago.
It all started with this guy named Camille Poirier back in the 1800s, and he came up with this idea for basically what's known as the Duluth Pack.
One bag, large enough to carry, well, everything.
It's a big canvas pack with leather straps on the back, and they're very specific as far as their use. They're made for canoeing.
Inside this century-old brick building on Duluth's west side, Nick Kelly explains the history.
This here used to be our retail store.
Now here you won't find much fancy stuff.
It's the original machinery that we've had, you know, in this building as long as we've been around.
It takes a toll on your arms some days.
Canvas and leather packs are made by hand.
They go through leather like this and even thicker than this. So they're pretty heavy duty. You don't want to get your finger under there. It hurts.
Hard work on the hands, hard work on the machines.
Mine's kind of an old man. It's not like the newer ones, but he does his job. His name is Gus.
Duluth Pack makes canvas bags for portaging, but over the years, they've seen more than the bottom of a canoe.
People that wanted to go camping or go out, they had to find some way that they could put their luggage and their camping equipment in their car. So we made an old canvas and leather pack that fit on the side of a Model T. We have a leather shell bag, which used to be just for hunters carrying around their shotgun shells, but today it's a purse.
These are small alterations from craftsmen who value the idea of adventure.
When you finish a product and you look at it and it's quality and you've got your name on it, makes you feel good.
My only problem with Duluth Packs is I put too much in them, huh? Well, that about does it for us. Remember, introduce a kid to the great outdoors. I'm Ron Sherman. Of course, always the star of the show, who is very nervous today, is Raven.
Transportation provided by Premier Transportation, Call 1-800-899-7433. For more information on these stories and more, catch us on the web at mnbound.com.